Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Wednesday, I believe is when you'll be hearing this. Yeah, I'm recording this Monday night, December the 14th, and I'm gonna try something a little different after the first of the year, but I'll kind of do a dry run here for you today. But um, I'm gonna try to focus all my political ramblings into one particular show a week, maybe every other week. Who knows? We'll see how the news cycle goes. But uh, I'm gonna call these ones fence post politics, and it seemed like as good a time as any to debut it with the electoral college voting and deciding that Joe Biden is now president elect. So um, there's that. Seems like a good enough time to talk about the rise and fall of Donald J. Trump. So for all of you listening on Patreon, you don't have to worry about ads, but everybody else, um, I got some people that pay me to tell you about them, so it helps me keep the lights on here and keep everything chugging along as it should be. So let me tell you about Stetson Ranches up in Fromberg, Montana. They are just a really good family. I can't say enough nice things about them. They're just really good people, multi-generational ranch family, trying to build on that, make a legacy type outfit that'll be sustainable for many generations to come, and many more Stetsons running around out there. So they're a very diversified outfit because it's hard to make money just running cattle anymore. Damn near impossible. So they got industrial hemp. They got some of the best quarter horses money can buy, and they've got a direct to consumer beef, pasture to plate beef outfit, and all around just a well run place. Quarter horses, some of the best you can buy. They're coming from mares off of King Ranch 4.6s, just really old foundation quarter horse bloodlines. Really spitting out some nice colts that are just heavy boned, big bodied, athletic, good mind to them, ready to go any which way you want to take them, any discipline you want to go, and and the beef is some of the best you'll ever buy. It's registered Angus, registered Black Angus cows, registered Hereford bulls, giving you an F1 Black Baldy cross that's gonna really do well on feed and give you a prime steak on your plate for $6.95 a pound. Full beef all the way down to an eighth of a beef package, which is about 65 pounds. Coming to your door, shipped on dry ice at $6.95 a pound. Prime every time. Stetson Ranch beef. It's some of the best you can get. Check them out online, stetsonranches.com. Go follow Jesse on Instagram at Jesse Stetson. That's Jesse with one S. Next up, we got Loma Livestock, and my good buddy George Raftopoulos running the best goddamn sale barn in North America. Got a sale coming to you 2 days a week, Monday and Friday. Monday's got the feeders, Friday's the weigh up, cows and bulls. Both sales starting at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. They're in Loma, Colorado, 1369 12 and a half Road. George is doing a lot of stuff with high frequency tags and some data collection to help bring some value to your cattle, help you market them to the right buyer, help their buyer find the right cattle for their program. He's just trying to make it work for both people, and that's how business works. And George is pretty damn good at it. If you can't make the sale on Monday or Friday, head over to dvauction.com. Click on the Loma Livestock tab, and you can watch the sale live right there, and you can bid. And if you got any questions you'd like to consign with them, give them a holler, 970-858-9988. Or check them out online, lomalivestock.com, and as well as Facebook and Instagram. So go give them a follow. And next up, we got Horny Toad Saddlery. It's a husband and wife duo out of Dumas, Texas, making some of the best handmade cowboy gear you can get. Dan Conway is doing the silversmithing, Hannah is doing the leather work, and really putting together some sharp looking, built to last, heavy duty cowboy working gear. It's really good stuff. Hannah is really creative on the leather side as well. She makes a lot of cool stuff for the ladies, and stuff that you might not even think of, like a shave kit or a drop bag, and putting some bling on your Crocs, and just all sorts of cool shit, and just really good gear. They're really good people. If you got any questions, you want to look at their stuff, or do some custom orders, you can find them on Facebook and Instagram at Horny Saddlery. They've also got a store on Etsy, Horny Saddlery. Make sure you check them out. Tell them you heard about it on Burning Daylight. And finally, we got, last but not least, Miss Kelly Martin and Branded Denim. My favorite jeans, one of my favorite people on earth. I really enjoy visiting with Kelly. She is a hoot. She's a firecracker of a woman. And I really like where her heart's at with everything she's doing with her business. She's really trying to give back to the cowboy community, and mainly trying to give you a pair of pants that are going to hold up to cowboy work. They're going to be comfortable. They're going to fit right. They're not going to ride up over the top of your boots. All the good stuff that you want in a pair of jeans that you can work in. That's what she's trying to build for you, and she's trying to make sure it's done here in America, because she's a by God American just like me. And she's got denim coming out of West Virginia, headed down to Texas, and that's where the jeans are put together, sewn together, patched together, however they do it, however they make them. They're made in Texas, out of West Virginia cotton or denim. I wonder where the cotton comes from, but anyway, that's a whole nother aside. But American-made jeans, because there ain't no cowboys in China. Go follow Branded Denim on Facebook and Instagram. And Instagram is at BrandedDenimY4. And check out their website. You can order and or see where someone near you may carry them. So branded-denim.com. And yeah, give Kelly a shout. Tell her that Burning Daylight sent you. So. Thanks to all the sponsors. I appreciate you all very, very much, and I appreciate everybody that listens to them. Make sure you go support these small businesses, especially this holiday season, Christmas season. I say holidays not because I want to be politically correct, but I got some Jewish friends, and they celebrate Hanukkah, and I know a lot of people that celebrate Christmas that don't, they're not particularly religious, and don't particularly celebrate it for any of the the faith-based aspects of it, but whatever, to each their own. It really is a nice time of year, regardless of what your religion is. It's kind of a time for family and for giving. So anyways, this Christmas season, holiday season, whatever you want to call it, if you got to buy gifts, if you're going to buy gifts and you're fortunate enough to be able to do so, make sure you shop local, you shop small. You can always go to one of these big corporate outfits. They'll be here tomorrow, but some of these small businesses may not, and it may be too late to save any of them. But hey, give them a little business while you can, because there's a lot of them ain't gonna make it, and it's a shame. I hate to see it. So that's kind of what I'm gonna do this Christmas is anything I'm gonna get, if I can get it from somebody who hand makes it, or is making their business off of it. That's who I'm gonna go for, rather than going to Walmart and Home Depot and Costco and all that. So I would encourage you guys to do the same. It might make a difference. It might not, but yeah, it make me feel a little bit better, anyways. So hopefully it makes somewhat of a difference. But all right, the inaugural episode of this type of show that I'm going to call Fence Post Politics. And so I'm going to condense down all my ramblings, well, try to as much as I can, and make one specific show just kind of a political show. and you'll know, because I'll label every one of them Fence Post Politics, Episode 1. And so if that's not your jam, you can just skip on by. Don't worry. I'll have something else for you that you might like. My idea with this show is I used to think I had a pretty unique view on politics, and I think to a certain extent I do. But I've come to find out there's a lot of people that think like me, and then there's a lot of people that have heard stuff that I believe. They just don't happen to agree with me, and that's cool too. So I kind of want to. I wouldn't mind getting some other people on, not necessarily to debate, but just to discuss some of the big issues and some of the differences between maybe right and left, or even within the cattle industry, opposing viewpoints. And I think it's good. I think it's healthy, and I think we've had a problem for a while. I know growing up where I did, my family wasn't quite so much like this. We pretty openly talked politics and not religion quite as much, but some. But it was I don't know if it was necessarily encouraged, but it was definitely talked about. My dad being involved in politics like he is, we talked about it pretty frequently, and we disagreed quite a bit. I still disagree with my dad on several issues. We're pretty well aligned, but there's always some things where you just don't see eye to eye, and that's fine. You can get along. My dad, I consider him one of my best friends nowadays, and we don't have to get along on, or we don't have to agree on everything, but I guess we don't have to get along either, but it sure makes life a lot nicer. So, I think we do a disservice to ourselves and others by not being willing to discuss political issues or religious issues, and learn how to have a discussion and or a civil debate, and not immediately just get your hackles up. And then there's some people that truly are just incapable, and I'm not saying this in a disparaging way, but there are some people that are just incapable of seeing the other point of view. They you can only see your point of view, and I guess if if you're one of those people and you're listening to me, well, you either agree with me or find me entertaining or just enjoy being pissed off. But I think for the most of us, everybody is at least able to see where the other side is coming from, whether you agree with them or not. And I think that's an important part of life, just in general, being able to see the other point of view. So anyhow, that's kind of my soapbox, if you will, as to why this why I wanted to do this show, and maybe just help bring some more civil discussion to political matters, so we don't end up in a civil war, which seems like more and more people are wanting nowadays. Well, I don't think they really want that, but there's a lot of talk out there, and I don't know if anybody's ready for that. So anyhow, the rise and fall of Donald Trump. Regardless of what you feel about him, man is a catalyst for damn sure. He has had an impact in such a short amount of time. I reckon there's not many people throughout history that have had that huge of an impact in just a short amount of time there's a few for sure. I mean, you mentioned the likes of Hitler or even like Napoleon. Um, but just in 4 years, I guess if you go back to 2015 when he announced that he was running, to now, 2020 and beyond, because as much as the left is celebrating right now, that had the electoral college having voted, the electoral college that the left wing would like to do away with, but now they're celebrating. We'll get into hypocrisy on this show a bunch, but that's not the main point here. It's just as much history as I pay attention to, and it's quite a bit. I might have a. We've talked before on this show about how I'm somewhere along the spectrum. I don't know where, but I get a little bit obsessive or compulsive or both, and I don't know. I'm not sure exactly the definition of manic, so I'm not going to classify myself under that. But I do, when I get focused in on something, I tend to almost go overboard. And so I kind of have a history problem at times. And so I'm constantly reading or listening to some sort of historical deal. And you hear about some of these huge figures throughout history, and Stalin, Hitler, Napoleon, Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Jesus, Muhammad, all of these people, and you look at them, and they all had a huge impact in a short amount of time. Take Jesus for example. 33 years is the documented time that he lived, and really when the Bible begins, tells the New Testament anyway, tells the birth story, and then it just kind of skips ahead till he was a teenager. So there's about, call it 17 years in there where he really made a huge impact on Earth. Then you got Julius Caesar. I think he lived, when he was murdered, he was in his 40s or 50s, something like that. So he had a pretty good amount of time. Alexander the Great he died pretty young. So he might be pretty similar in that same category as Trump. Abe Lincoln, kind of the same way. It took 6 years, I guess, was about his reign, and it got cut short. John Wilkes Booth kind of took care of that. He might have had a longer period of time which to impact history, but pretty short amount of time. And then JFK, that would be, I think he would probably be the closest. And I think maybe the certain people higher up in the government, in the shadows, maybe learned a thing or two since JFK, so that's why Trump's still among us. But you look at the similarities with the Kennedys and JFK in particular and Trump. It's there's a lot. There's a lot of similarities, and but for whatever reason, Trump is just a catalyst, and regardless of your feelings, he will be mentioned throughout history. I am almost certain of it. As much as the left would like to see him just forgotten, he ain't going anywhere, and not for maybe ever. So looking back, 2015 he announces, and 2016 the race is on in earnest. So we got a 17 candidates in the Republican primary, including Jeb Bush, who was the front runner from the get-go. kind of the status quo type candidate, kind of the squishy rhino Republicans, war hawks, big government spenders. That was their guy. But y'all also had Tea Party guy Marco Rubio, who came in as a like a strong conservative. The longer he stayed in office, it became more of a kind of squishy, middle of the road GOP neocon type of guy. Very much like Jeb Bush and George W. Bush and Mitt Romney and Bob Dole and all these other Republican candidates that we've had. But here comes Trump. He announces he's coming down his fucking gold escalator in Trump Tower. And he makes this speech announcing that he's running for president. And basically his campaign pitch was fuck China, fuck Mexico, fuck the Middle East, and fuck the establishment, because we don't win anymore. We don't win shit. We go to war and we don't ever win. A lot of times we lose. We don't ever say that we lose, but we pulled out of Vietnam. We lost that one. We're pulling out of Afghanistan. We got Bin Laden, but the overall deal, we lost that one. Iraq, same thing. And he's calling out China because they're kicking our ass on trade. He's calling out Mexico because they're flooding our borders with a bunch of illegal immigrants. And then he makes his famous thieves and rapists or something like that about the people that Mexico is sending over the border. Probably shouldn't have said that. Not really the best tactic, but anyhow, he kind of said it how it was, and we got a glimpse real early on as to what Trump was going to look like as a candidate and as a president. It was going to be directly in your face, and you were gonna exactly where Trump was coming from, and boy, he struck a nerve. And but like I said, there was 17 candidates, and I remember watching that, and well, that's not going anywhere. I'd been following politics pretty closely for 3 or 4 years at this point, maybe a little more than that, and it just wasn't politics as usual. And I was like, well, there's no way that guy gets elected. Well, then he starts winning these primaries. They get into the debates, and he just wrecks Jeb Bush's world. He ruins Marco Rubio. Ted Cruz holds his own, but he starts winning all these states, and next thing you know, the media had been kind of propping him up because Hill Dog was running. And so in this primary, they start giving Trump more and more media coverage, and especially when it starts looking like he's going to win. And so they're trying to help him along, because they have decided, Hill Dog has decided, that Trump's going to be the most vulnerable candidate, which she was probably right from a traditional sense. And so anyway, they go ahead and push him over the hump. They help get him nominated, and immediately about face and all guns trained on Trump, and they are letting him have it with everything they got. And but I guess they didn't count on just the sheer ability of Trump to not give a fuck. And onward he went, and he just laid waste to the campaign trail. He relied heavily on Twitter and controlling the media narrative, therefore not having to spend a ton of money. And I don't know how many millions of dollars Hillary Clinton spent in 2016, but Donald Trump only had to spend a fraction of it. And he gets on stage, and they hit him on his abuse of women or whatever, and they, boom, grab him by the pussy tape. They got that on tape, death blow. Trump can't survive, and he goes, yeah, there's locker room talk, and then he says, you want to talk about inappropriate with women? How about your husband? And then the next debate, he invites all the women that have accused Bill Clinton of rape. He invites them to the debate and has them sit right in the front row. So Hillary has to watch him the whole time. It was genius. Dirty, but genius. And anyway, he dominates Hillary Clinton in the debates. But I guess going back to the primary, like, even the GOP didn't like Donald Trump. They liked Jeb Bush. They liked Marco Rubio. Well, then they all fell apart. Rubio and Jeb Bush, they both coming from Florida. Neither one of them won Florida. Donald Trump won that shit. But Ted Cruz puts up a pretty good fight. But the establishment Republicans don't like him either because he's too conservative, and he kind of actually halfway means what he says about, using the Constitution as a guide on how they govern. And, you can't do that as a Republican. You have to say that, but you don't actually do it. So they didn't really like Ted Cruz, so they threw John Kasich in there, and he held on till the very end for some reason, even though he had no shot of winning, and he was not very likable, and he was like the squishiest of all the squishy middle-of-the-road Republican guys. And anyhow, but that, they couldn't hold off Trump, and so here he comes. He dominates Hillary in the debates, and then her messaging versus his was, it wasn't even close. You had "Make America Great Again" versus "I'm with her," and her messaging, the branding was not good, but then the messaging wasn't any better because Trump would say, I want to end all these wars, I want to build a wall, and I want Mexico to pay for it, and we're going to take on China, and we're going to punch them in their mouth, and we're going to drain the swamp. That, you knew what he was trying to do, or that's what he said he wanted to do. And then Hillary Clinton would say, oh, Donald Trump is so terrible. Would you look at how terrible he is? And she still wonders how she lost to that, to this just cartoon character. Anyway, he also dominates the strategy on the swing state campaigning, and he ends up winning all the major swing states basically by a very narrow margin. And but he won states like Pennsylvania and Michigan that the Republican hadn't won those in a while. So did very well in that area, but he loses the popular vote, wins the Electoral College in a landslide, and he is elected as president. And before he takes office, FBI begins the infamous Russia collusion investigation. Before the get-go, they had it after him, and it was a recurring theme throughout his entire presidency, is just constantly at odds with the deep state, if you will, whether it be the FBI or the various intelligence agencies or the Justice Department. Any bureaucrat or organization, federal agency that has people that have been there for a long time and are very comfortable with the way things are, was not happy with Donald Trump, and they were fighting him right from the very beginning. And what it amounts to is just a coordinated effort between the bureaucratic state, whether it be intelligence or even hell, the USDA and the EPA, just any government agency you can think of had it out for him right from the get-go. So 2017 rolls around. He's inaugurated, and there we go. Right from the beginning, the media is against him, 100%. The first major story of Donald Trump's presidency is, besides the fact that they already have charged his national security advisor for being basically what amounts to is calling him a Russian asset, and also his former campaign manager is under investigation and I believe was charged at the time. But the biggest story from the first day of Trump's presidency is how much he lied about how big the crowd size was, which kind of a funny story. They showed a bunch of pictures. Who knows if they were from the inauguration or if they from somewhere else or if they photoshopped. Who knows? I wouldn't put anything past the corporate media at this point. However, that was all that anybody could talk about, how that this really wasn't really the biggest crowd ever, and how ridiculous that he even lie about it. Well, yeah, they have a point, but it's also just as ridiculous the amount of coverage it got. And but then you get Flynn, Michael Flynn, his national security advisor, gets charged and then convicted. Paul Manafort, former campaign manager, same thing. He gets Jeff Sessions installed as he nominates him and he gets confirmed as the Attorney General, which Jeff Sessions is kind of a big piece of shit. He is a swamp creature if there ever was one, and this was one of Trump's biggest weaknesses, is just not recognizing the swamp in front of his own face. So anyhow, he nominates Jeff Sessions, gets him in as Attorney General, and Jeff Sessions is an old school drug warrior, and he immediately wanted to crack back down on marijuana and marijuana dispensaries, and he was a big time border hawk, which was kind of why Trump had him. But he gets accused of wrongdoing during the whole transfer period or transition period, because he had spoke to a Russian foreign minister or something, and didn't disclose it or something. It was something very minor, but they made it out to be like he was conspiring with the Russians, because the whole Russiagate deal is going on by this point. At this point, Bob Mueller is appointed as special prosecutor to investigate this whole story of Russian collusion and interference into the election. And because Jeff Sessions has been accused of wrongdoing by meeting with this Russian diplomat, which he was 100% legal in meeting with him, but regardless of that, he saw that as a conflict of interest and recused himself from the case, pretty well allowing Bob Mueller to run wild with this whole deal and let the media and the Democrats, I know I repeat myself, but just pontificate and speculate on all of this, and just it was like fantasy camp almost, or like, what's your greatest fantasy show, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I would love to see Trump carried away in handcuffs and locked up for the rest of his life, and possibly be tortured and maimed and murdered. But yeah, it was just all this speculation, and 3 years later, he finally wraps it up, and in the meantime, 2018 rolls around, and Trump has this whole cloud of the Mueller investigation hanging over him. And in the meantime, the press has not let up one iota. If not, they've just like you think here is peak outrage. There's no way they can get more outraged than this. And then the next day they're up to here. And then you think, well, they can't possibly go any further. And then they're up to here, and then to here. And every time you think they can't get any more outrage shit, they somehow do. And over the stupidest shit. Nothing that really matters, but you have all of that going on, and then the cloud of the Mueller investigation hanging over Trump. 2018, the midterm elections roll through, and you get what they call the blue wave. And Democrats take back the House, and immediately, almost immediately, start investigations and impeachment proceedings. So 2019 hits, and Mueller, he ends his investigation, releases his report, finds no evidence of collusion, and he has like 10 instances where Donald Trump may or may not have committed obstruction of justice into the investigation of a crime which he did not commit, which the whole Justice Department, FBI, all that apparatus knew that he didn't commit that crime. But yet there was 10 cases or 10 instances where he might have committed obstruction of justice, or he might have obstructed justice into this bullshit investigation. Obstruction of justice, for the most part, is a bullshit charge. It's basically the equivalent of a cop after he makes you do a field side sobriety or roadside sobriety test, and you pass, and you take the breathalyzer and you pass that. But yet, for some reason, he's pretty sure you're guilty of something, but he can't get you on anything, so he smashes your headlight or your taillight on you when he's going back to his car and said, hey, you got a taillight out. You might want to get that fixed. That's basically obstruction of justice. And, or a tag light. They'll give you a ticket for a tag light being out. Any little bullshit thing that doesn't hurt anybody. That's what they'll get you on, and that's the same thing with obstruction of justice. So you would think that would be a huge story, like, hey, we got this way wrong. He's actually not a Russian spy. But nope, they just keep on chugging, and they're on to the next one. Then we get into this Ukraine deal, and I don't know if you guys remember way back in February of 2020, Donald Trump was impeached. That is how crazy this year has been. I'll post a screenshot of my notes here, but I wrote, I've got my notes going out by year. 2020, only thing I've got wrote down is gross. But anyway, Mueller goes ahead and he finds nothing, all that $40 million waste of taxpayer dollars to find out what we all really knew, except for the insane lunatic left-wing fringe that truly believed the bullshit that he was in bed with the Russians. Just insane. But you'd think that would be a big deal. That, boy, it turns out he was not guilty of that, even though we've pounded the table on that. And I think Stephen Colbert called Trump Vladimir Putin's cock holster at one point. And granted, Stephen Colbert is not a trusted news source, but still, this is like a late night show. This, he took over for Letterman. This is not, it's not the Comedy Central where they get a little more risque. This is, network TV late night show, and he calls him Vladimir Putin's cock holster. which is funny, incredibly graphic. It's funny. Um, Incredibly inappropriate, but he is a comedian, so I don't even fault him for that. I was like, wow, they went hard in the paint there. But then you find out that yeah, that was all bullshit, and then it's just like that's not even a story. That don't even worry about that. How about Ukraine? Um, then you get into, boy, it just all weaves itself back and forth. This whole Donald Trump saga. Uh, so the story on Ukraine was Hunter Biden. Y'all know the story. He gets a job as a board member for a natural gas company out of Ukraine, even though he has no experience in the oil and gas business or being on the board of anything. Anyhow, gets this really exorbitant monthly salary, something to the tune of like 50 to 80,000 bucks a month, maybe more. I can't remember. It's a stupid amount of money. I know that for sure. And of course, the Bidens deny that. The Democrats deny that. Donald Trump, however, wants Ukraine to investigate this, and we've got a whole bunch of military funding headed their way. And the thought is, or the accusation was, that he attempted to withhold that funding in order to get the Russian president or prime minister to open an investigation on Hunter Biden. So 2019 begins the process of impeachment. All these committee meetings and hearings are held. Articles of impeachment are filed, and you have the whole hearing for the impeachment. The House votes. The beginning of 2020, House votes, and Donald Trump is impeached, and he is sent to the Senate for a trial. And of course, Republicans hold the Senate, and even more obvious is the story is bullshit, and maybe something he had done was technically illegal. I don't see how it rises to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors. So, anyhow, he gets acquitted by the Senate, being accused for essentially the exact same thing that Joe Biden has admitted to doing and bragged about on camera, which is he did not want his son being investigated, and he claimed that the guy going after him was corrupt. And I'm going to be on a plane leaving Ukraine in 12 hours, and if that prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money that we're sending you for military aid. So for that reason, like, under that logic, Joe Biden should be like double impeached and then, reelected and then impeached again, because or just made president for life because he was able to do what Trump was trying to do more successfully. Anyhow, it makes no sense if you're starting to think that. Don't worry, it doesn't make any sense, except for the fact that Donald Trump is basically an unchained animal, and he can't really be controlled. And I think that's the biggest reason as to why they don't like him. So 2020 rolls around. Right off the bat, we murk one of the top guys from Iran. They're the guy that is responsible for the entire military. A lot of people have said in that they're the Middle Eastern experts or whatever that really researched this stuff, said basically he was running the show. And so in Iran you have the Ayatollah, who's like the supreme leader, but basically he's just like a bearded, really angry Queen Elizabeth. Uh, doesn't have the real political power. That he's just more of a very vocal figurehead. But this guy, Qasem Soleimani, who was the head military guy, basically ran Iran. And we took his ass out by drone while he was in Iraq. Pretty controversial move, but compared to the rest of the year, very mild. Anyhow, moving right along, 2020, Donald Trump is impeached. Senate acquits him, and it looks like, hey, there is nothing that can stop this dude from re-election. And then, boom, here comes the Rona. Oh, March to December. 9 months, 9 solid months of coronavirus hysteria. And yeah, so we got this unknown virus coming over from China. It's the China plague. And you hear some rumblings about it in the media, and then pretty soon it becomes a little louder. And then for 9 months, that basically is all you've heard about, minus about a 2-week little spell there where they got your mind off of that and on to the election. But still, even the whole election was just COVID. Like, everything was coronavirus this, coronavirus that, coronavirus response, vaccines, blah, 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 lockdown. Why do you want to open your state? Why do you want to close this? And it seems like we've had 90 years of that at this point, but it's only been 9 months. And this is where it really all kind of fell apart for old Trumpy Bear. Now, I know, because I do my research, and not very good research, but I do enough to make me dangerous. I do know that Joe Biden is not, in fact, president yet. I understand that. He is president-elect, and he is not even, officially president-elect until the House certifies the vote of the Electoral College, which they will do. I pretty sure they will. It seems like there's a long shot chance that I think maybe it's not even that long shot, I guess. If Texas is really that pissed off, it might be, because I think if that lawsuit that Texas brought that just got thrown out, I think if it was to go before the court, Ted Cruz was gonna argue it. So there might be something to this this little deal. I don't see it happening, because what it would mean would be it's the case of maybe the solution is worse than than the problem itself. And it's so if I read right, and I'll have to look up for sure, but I think what I read was one person from the House and one person from the Senate can choose not to certify the results of the election, and therefore the Electoral College votes would not matter, and it would go to a delegation of the House between a delegation of the states. However that goes. It'd be a vote in the House of Representatives, but by state delegation. So instead of the 55 members of California, each casting a vote, no, they would have to vote amongst themselves as to how California as a whole would vote. And if that was the case, then Trump would probably win. I don't know though. There's at this point now there's not a whole lot of people other than the average Trump voter on his side. Even the Republican Party is they never really liked him in the first place, but he just kind of steamrolled the whole apparatus, so they didn't have much of a choice but to like him. And they're not backing him very much here. So, but if it only takes one from the House and one from the Senate, I could see, say, Louis Gohmert from Texas and then Ted Cruz in the Senate, and that would do it. I could see that happening. I don't know though. I don't. I say that's very unlikely, and the reality of the situation looks more and more like Joe Biden is the president. However legitimately you feel about that, there was some shady shit that went down this election, just like there's some shady shit that goes down every election, and it's one of the biggest reasons why democracy is a bunch of horse shit. It's always touted to be this great and noble thing, but at the base of it all is am I voting to to promote or spread individual liberty, or am I voting to take somebody else's rights away? And more often than not, it's you're voting to whether or not to take somebody else's rights away. And I'm just not real on board with any of that. But we can get into I guess we can get into the fall, kind of the decline of Donald Trump. And there was a lot of good qualities about Trump, regardless of what the media would have you believe. But I really think his biggest weapon was he did not give a fuck what they thought of him. He just was not going to be pushed around by the media or the ruling class. He was not going to be pushed around, and that was it was a good quality, but it was also probably his biggest weakness at the same time, because he didn't know when to turn it off, and he put his foot in his mouth all the time. He pissed everybody off some of the time, pissed half of the country off all the fucking time. So for all of his good qualities, they were just, it was counterbalanced by him being just a fucking asshole, to put it lightly. And you go back to his platform, and like I said, it was kind of fuck China. Well, he did a pretty good job on that. They've been in at each other's throats ever since he's been in office. Build the wall, Mexico's gonna pay for it. It didn't happen. You can talk about the 400-mile fence that he built. Mexico hadn't paid for shit. He didn't get the wall. The wall ain't gonna happen. The wall's probably a dumb idea. I'm not an open border guy. I'm not that far libertarian, or at least on that issue I'm not. And but the wall's a stupid idea. It's expensive, and if you haven't noticed, the Mexicans have figured out how to go over. They've figured out how to go through, and they've figured out how to go under. So why not spend your money a little more efficiently? But I get the argument of the wall. I just think it's stupid. Anyhow, he did not fulfill on that. He was going to bring back jobs. Started to do a pretty good job of that. He did a lot of deregulation. Could have done more. They could always do more, but by and large, did a pretty good job on that. And yeah, before COVID-19 reared its ugly head or was thrust into our face. Had a pretty dang good economy. Well, it'd be great on a curve compared to the last, 40, 50 years. That all the economy was balanced on a hair trigger as it was, and you didn't need a whole big of a pull to for it all to come crashing down. But we didn't get a pull. We got a full force tug of war, and we ended up right face down in the shit. And part of this whole COVID response deal is on Donald Trump too. He declared the national emergency. I understand why. It was kind of a serious deal. However, it laid the foundation for all of these governors to run wild. So Kate Brown in Oregon, Jay Inslee in Washington, Gavin Newsom, Steve Sisolak, Andrew Cuomo, Gretchen Whitmer, all these little tyrants, by Trump declaring a national emergency, gave them cover to just run wild and be a bunch of communist fuckheads. So yeah, he put himself in behind the eight ball, and then really didn't even try to maneuver away from him. I mean, the man does not know finesse, and just it was the Trump's reaction, I think, was probably appropriate on the federal level, but man, once again, if you can articulate why it's the governors that are fucking up and not you, that would be helpful in the middle of a media hyped pandemic. That would be very helpful for you to be able to articulate that. He did not. Really didn't even try. And I get after 3 years, 4 years of being just beat down, you say fuck it. But he said fuck it from day one. And at some point, you got to know what you're doing isn't working and try to regroup and maybe go a different direction. But it just seemed like it never happened for him. And in the meantime, his other, and then we'll kind of roll these two into one, but his other points were no more endless war and drain the swamp. Well, the swamp likes war because war makes money. And you want to drain the swamp and you want to end the endless wars. Well, the worst possible person you could hire to do that would be John fucking Bolton. John Bolton is the walrus mustache guy that was ambassador to the UN for George W. He has been one of the biggest cheerleaders for every military action we've taken in the last 40 years. And has been wrong on every major foreign policy. So he was a firm believer that we roll into Iraq and they would greet us as liberators and it would be all over and glorious. And well, 17 years later, here we are. Kind of same thing with Afghanistan. Well, 19 years later, still there. And you hired the guy that is the most likely to never let you achieve any of your foreign policy goals. You hired the swamp to drain the swamp. Congratulations, Donald Trump, you fucking idiot. At some point, I don't know. You got to do a little bit of research. He's pretty good at the whole politics game. But when it comes to governing, he wasn't that damn good. He had some good policies. He either couldn't get them across because he couldn't shut the fuck up, or he was constantly being just sideswiped by his own damn administration, who he put in place. So not to mention all the pushback he was getting from people he didn't put there, that have been there that really hated him. But you picked the people that that were helping you, and uh, there's a part of me that I really want Trump to win, just because I want to see how much more shit he can he can pull up and expose from these just uh you know half of them are just clowns, and half of them are just as Dave Smith from Part of the Problem says, blood-soaked monsters, and they really are. And if you can't distinguish from the swamp from the swamp, then how the hell are you ever gonna drain it? And in the grand scheme of things, Trump was his own damn worst enemy. He didn't know when to shut the fuck up. He didn't know when to just stay off of Twitter. And it always seemed like when there was maybe a little bit of a lull in the media cycle, boy, he would tweet something or say something that he knew was going to get a reaction, and I think he gets great joy out of it. And it's funny to an extent, but at the same time, you're the goddamn president, so do something. And the part that really gets me is you look at the amount of lawsuits that were either filed by his administration or by his supporters during this election. I've not heard of one single federal lawsuit against the state of Michigan or the state of California or the state of Nevada fighting on behalf of individual liberty. It took 3 cases to get to the Supreme Court before they finally said, oh yeah, that First Amendment thing and religious freedom, I guess they really, that really is a thing. But it took them 3 tries. California sued, the people in California sued, state of California. A church over here in Dayton, Nevada sued the state of Nevada. Both lost at the Supreme Court, saying that the governor could, in fact, impose capacities on churches and oppose them, in a what's the improportionate way. A casino could have 50% capacity, while a church could only have 50 people max. And that case lost at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court decided they weren't going to hear it, and basically saying that the governor can tell you that you can only have this many people in your church. But on the 3rd try, they finally said, no, you can't do that. The First Amendment means something. But where was that from Donald Trump and the White House administration, from his Department of Justice? Where was all of that, fighting for the people that got him elected? The people that still fighting tooth and nail for him to get elected. No lawsuit on behalf of them, but lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit on this election. If you would have focused on the people that got you there before the election, maybe they would have came through for you. But I mean, I think he was obviously a better choice than Joe Biden. But you got to call a spade a spade, and he shot himself in the foot so many times as a wonder he has a fucking leg left, let alone a foot. And goddamn, man, I'm so tired of all this election bullshit. And I posted a meme the other day, and I stand by it, that said, or it wasn't even a meme, it was just a screenshot, and I said, this is a more important lawsuit than any of the election stuff, and it was the hooker, sex worker, highest paid sex worker, is suing the state of Nevada for damages because not only did they shut down her place of employment, but they excluded her line of work from any of the COVID stimulus stuff. Which, if the government's gonna force you to close down your business, they better goddamn well figure out a way to make sure that that business is still there when everything clears back up, which they haven't done. Half a million, or yeah, half a million businesses are gone. Small businesses are gone, and I have not seen. And maybe there are a few cases brought forth by the White House, but I haven't seen them, and I haven't seen Trump talking about them. He's talking about how, well, you got to open up. You got to open up, but this is a guy that'll sue anybody for libel and slander at any time. But you sue on behalf of the American people, on behalf of the California residents, of Nevada residents, or anybody else that just wants to go back to fucking work or go to church or go to the bar and have a beer with their friends, and not being told to put a damn mask on or they got to stay 6 feet apart, Where was that fight? But you'll fight, for months on end over an election that, yeah, it was probably shady, but they've all been shady, and until you can prove it, I don't care. That's how it is. You figured out how to win last time. You knew the odds were against you this time. You knew that the mail-in ballots were gonna be a big problem, but you waited till after the election to bring forth any lawsuits over it, and it just, if you would have put down Twitter, and you could have just hit the back button, gone to Google instead. Not that I'm a huge fan of Google, but they're pretty damn good as a search engine. You could have gone in there and just Googled how does the government work, and maybe got a decent idea of what you're trying to do. And so, it's good that being from outside the system, but you still got to try to figure out how to get something done. And then the easiest thing you could have done, and I think probably would have been the biggest win of all, is you could have just brought all the troops home from Afghanistan, all the troops home from Iraq, or even you could have even left, some special forces or whatever to continue to take care of business until you feel like hey, we're good there. I would have taken that. But no, and he would cave to media pressure. Every time he tried to pull out of Syria, all of a sudden there's a new gas attack from Bashar al-Assad on his own people, even though that'd be the worst thing that he could possibly do, because when it finally looks like the Americans are pulling out, maybe not do anything to upset the the beehive. If they're leaving on their own accord, maybe not call them a fuckhead as they're walking away and make them want to turn back around. Makes no sense for Bashar al-Assad to gas his own people, especially in that time frame. But anyhow, that was reason for us to keep troops there in Syria, so we did. And then it comes back 6 months later or so that actually that didn't happen at all. But he's the damn commander-in-chief of the army. He could have just said, hey, we're coming home. All you troops that are been deployed for how many years, sorry, the previous presidents fucked you over. This was a unwinnable mess, and we don't want any part of it. Could have done that. But he waited till 2 months left in his first term to get that ball really going. And so 2 months is all you got, buddy. So get after it hard. There's talk that he's going to run in 24. I don't doubt it. I don't think he'll get elected. He'll be 78 years old, so he'll be Joe Biden. He might still be Trump, but he's still going to be 78 years old. I don't know. I think that's, as far as elected office, I think that's probably it for for old Trumpy Bear, but excuse me. Don't worry, he ain't going anywhere by a damn shot. Whether he starts his own, Trump News Network, or he goes, just a regular appearance on somewhere else, or who knows? I don't know, but guarantee you he'll be around. I still think he's gonna get booted off of Twitter. It was the most creepy thing the other day. I saw some post on Instagram. It was a Trump post, and it was flagged because it says Joe Biden is the winner of the 2020 election. Because that's what they're doing with everything nowadays. This post had no mention of the election at all. None. Edit. Not a single mention of the election. It was a video announcing the approval of the coronavirus vaccine. And all he talked about was the vaccine and how great his response was and all that. Nothing about the election, but yet it was flagged. So I went to his profile on Instagram, and I've got screenshots of like 8 different posts that don't mention the election. There's one that just shows him walking onto the field at the Army-Navy game. No caption at all. Still was flagged. Joe Biden is the winner of. Like, isn't nobody else find this just real creepy? Like, real, almost identical to George Orwell's 1984. I don't know what the solution is with these social media companies, other than to not let them have that much power over you. You have somewhat of a control yourself, but as far as the censorship goes, I don't see it getting any better. And I don't know. I think Twitter may die if they do kick Trump off. And I don't know. I find that hard to believe that that they would. I don't know. Maybe I don't find it hard to believe, but the smart move for Twitter would be to not censor him, not flag his tweets, and just let him do his thing. It's going to drive ton of traffic to Twitter. But I don't know. They seem to hate him that much that they may just go ahead and ban him, and then I'm sure he'll be on Parler, and then I don't know. I think until people make a very, very coherent and personal choice to not get caught up in the social media bullshit, it's not gonna change. But they write headlines and stuff to make you angry, but you have to choose to click on them. So it's we're doing it to ourselves, and the problem with democracy, or representative democracy like we have as well, we get the leader and the outcome we deserve. And I think a lot of Americans are not necessarily stupid. They're just woefully ignorant of how the system works. They're woefully ignorant of political philosophy and ideology, and it's more than anything just a team sport. And for all those people that could vote either way, I think a lot of them just looked at just what social media has become under Trump, and just the public discourse in general, where it just I feel regularly when I'm either like scrolling through social media or like listening to people talk, and I just feel like that scene from Saving Private Ryan, like right when he's on the beach and you can't hear because he got shell blown up right beside his head, so it sounds like he's underwater and everything's like really focused looking, and you can just you can see people, you can see the guy's mouth moving, but you don't really hear any sound coming out. That's kind of what it's like the or kind of the inverse of that when I open social media is like you can almost hear the shrieking, but it's all from like anonymous people or just it's weird. It's fucking weird, and I get pretty riled up on politics stuff quite often, but I try not to let that shit consume my day. There's so much more stuff out there, better stuff that I can think about, and man, you can just choose not to to engage in any sort of unproductive political spat on Facebook, because chances are you ain't changing anybody's minds. But I think the overall story of Trump is he was a symptom of the problem. Like he's not the problem in itself. I think he rose up because of the problem, and one of the big things that I think your average, kind of left-winger anti-Trump person who's not in a position of power, but, let's just say your average kind of progressive Democrat voter, I think the one thing they got wrong is where they viewed Trump as a racist, and therefore all of his supporters as racist, and they I think they were pretty right when they said he built his campaign on hate, and I don't disagree completely on that. I think there was a lot of hate in maybe not so much in Trump initially, but in his supporters. But it was not a hate for any particular race. I'm sure there's obviously a few of them out there that make their decision on that. But your average Trump person hated the entire system. They did not hate. They didn't vote for Trump because they hated blacks or they hated Mexicans. They voted for Trump because they hated politicians. And Donald Trump wasn't a politician. He's still, even though he's been president for 4 years now, he's not what you'd call a politician, really. And so, yeah, I guess to wrap it up, I think the Trump movement really was built a lot around hate and frustration, but it was a hatred of the putrid stinking mess of I guess it's an oligopoly, or it's just a bunch of cronies that control the politicians, and therefore control the course of politics. And the whole thing is gross. Donald Trump was a creature of that swamp. Did an okay job at fighting back against it. But then, at times, I guess he did pretty good. But then at times he'd go and hire people like John Bolton and Mike Pompeo, who just, they're okay with seeing us in every war ever, because they're buddies, and indirectly them, looking at you, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, will make money off of that, because when Raytheon and Northrop Grumman and Boeing and Lockheed Martin are making billions of dollars because we're bombing the shit out of some just shit stain of a country in the Middle East, well, then Mike Pompeo and John Bolton get a little kickback, and they get to feel patriotic or some bullshit. But meanwhile, we send a bunch of 18 to 25-year-old patriotic men to die, get scarred for life, and come back home and not take care of them through the VA. But hey, universal health care, right? Let's do that. But that whole movement was built off of just frustration, anger, and hatred of the system. That the racism was played up immediately and often by the left wing and the media. Once again, I repeat myself. But there's very little truth to it. Donald Trump was an asshole, is an asshole, but he wasn't afraid to say it, and he didn't know how to shut the fuck up, and that, at the end of the day, that was his big problem, and that, and he had no clear-cut principles except he loved Donald Trump. I think the man truly does love America, but I think he truly, deeply loves Donald Trump even more than America. And I'm not even saying that as a, as a dig at him. I think that is truly the case. But that narcissism that led him to, he had no solid moral principles in which he stood on. He didn't stand on the individual liberty. He didn't hold conservative values. He was more of a liberal, but he knew how to speak to the people that were pissed off, and he did that, and it carried him to one term. Damn near got him a second, but barring some Hail Mary attempt by the House of Representatives or by Congress in general, I guess. I think that's the last we've seen of Donald J. Trump as President Donald J. Trump. So January 20th or whatever, he'll become a private citizen again. There's going to be calls to bring charges on him if they don't have some waiting already. That's a bad path to go down. But Democrats seem incapable of learning that any gross abuse of power that they may use, they just fail to see that they set precedent for that same exact tactic to be used against them. And it's gonna be a sloppy couple of years. I don't know where it heads after that. Maybe Donald Trump pulls a Grover Cleveland and wins in non-consecutive terms. That would be something. But I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But I think I'm gonna wrap there. I hope y'all made sense of all this babbling, but this has been Fence Post Politics on the Burning Daylight podcast. So, thanks for tuning in, and move your ass. We're burning daylight.